Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Journal Podcast. Last episode, we kind of touched base on conservation and where that all in the balance where that lies. This week's episode is a little bit different, and I drew this question from one of my social media platforms. I think it was off YouTube to be precise, especially after the last couple of episodes. If you haven't yet, would appreciate you guys heading along there and having a squiz at the PH Journals channel. I've got a couple of hunts up there that I guided a few very special clients on. We had an incredible time in the Eastern Cape. There's still a lot more to go. We're just in editing processes. So look forward to sharing that with you. So the question was, and that came about, especially now, I've just sold the last Taticam I had in stock here in South Africa, is that why, when coming out to South Africa, should we build or generate content if you're just doing a personal hunt, especially whether it's just for family or just for memories and just being a lifelong dream of yours? Well, there's two things about it. Personally, and once again, guys, everything on my podcast is from a personal perspective. And I look forward to sharing my personal perspective with you guys because I've been in the industry for the past 13 years. So I hope I've generated enough knowledge to try and make a better decision or allow you guys to make a better decision going forward. So once again, without further ado, this podcast was proudly brought to you by PH Toolbox. It's my own e-commerce store. The PH program is up and running. If you are an outdoor enthusiast and you would like to get involved in the affiliate program for PH or through the PH program, please head along to www.phtoolbox.co.za. As well as, once again, the wonderful people down at Utando Safaris. They've sponsored us for this week's episode. Packages will be launched just before Black Friday, so keep an eye out. If you would like to find out more, head along to www.utandosafaris.com. And then last but not least, we've launched, finally, PH Journals has launched their very own website. I'm proud, very, very proud of how it's turned out. Head along to www.phjournals.com. There you'll find all my content as well as podcasts, YouTube videos, blogs, whatever the case may be, as well as if you would like to sponsor any episode or be involved in any episode of the podcast, you guys will find all the required attachments or price lists, or get in contact with us and we can find out more of how you would like to get involved in the podcast. Obviously, this podcast, as well as my YouTube channel and a lot of my social media, wouldn't be possible without very, very special people as well as sponsors. So I'm very, very fortunate. And once again, I just want to say a very big thank you to everybody that has supported me. I'm very proud to announce, and of course we can mention it on here, is that my podcast is now in the top 10% of the global recognition as far as the hunting industry is concerned. So I'm very, very proud of how far we've come. And once again, I wouldn't be in this position without you guys. So thank you for everything that you guys have done. It's truly made a massive difference in my life, and it's just allowed me to share my passion for the industry. And as well, I hope we combat the people that disagree with hunting and don't see it as a conservation tool. So, with that being said, let's get into it. Once again, guys, I just want to say a very big thank you to everybody that has followed us. It's been a wonderful journey, and I just can't wait to keep bringing you guys content. Our latest episode of the PH Journals episode on YouTube is up. It's about selecting your perfect hunting boots for your safari. So head along to the PH Journals YouTube page, or you can find it on phjournals.com. Well, to get into it, I was asked a question on my YouTube page about why should we generate content through coming over on a safari. And to give you guys a little bit more context, I found out a little bit more about what this gentleman was actually referring to or asking. He was hesitant to post pictures, videos of his hunt and previous safaris, but he's coming back out next year to a safari company up in Limpopo. and he feels that he would like to have a cameraman on board as well as generate content for his page, And he was a little bit hesitant because obviously he's a businessman in the US, and he was just worried, obviously, after all the Cecil the Lion stories and stuff went along. And he wanted to get a different perspective, especially with what I'm doing on social media. He wants to get a different perspective on why he thinks that it's kind of important or necessary to post and to generate content as such. So my basic answer to that would be is that as hunters, we are obligated not only to understand the conservation tool that hunting brings, but as well as to try and educate our non-hunters. Now, a lot of people in the past, I was one of them, and I will admit to that, there's not a lot of times that you really have the energy or you feel the capabilities of going out to motivate what you're doing. And it's a little bit of it's kind of like a catch-22 scenario, because in this point of time, education is pretty much all we've got to rely on. Because without education, people are just making very, very harsh decisions on our wildlife and the impact of our wildlife going forward. And what better way to motivate your reasoning or your understanding of conservation through hunting than to generate content, to generate aspects of what's happening out there. And a lot of people have seen what I've done, and my communication through this is not just being, I don't want to go out there. I mean, I've been a professional hunter now for 13 years, and I know it doesn't sound like a lot right now, but if you take 13 years at an average of about 70, 80 days of hunting throughout the year, you kind of build up enough content. I mean, I could flood YouTube with kill shots and, complete stuff that actually makes viewing possible or generates a lot of views. But that's not my idea. My idea is to show a raw side of Africa that never seen before and people understand it. Like one of my podcasts on the last episode was very, very hard for me to put myself out there to say to people that, listen, guys, let's not bullshit ourselves and say, once an animal's down, all the meat goes to the villages and stuff. Yes, I'm talking about South Africa now, because we know that probably about 80 to 90% of that meat doesn't. It does go to processing plants like butchers and stuff that use it for cheap protein into the market, or use it for trimmings in stuff like sausage and just other edible red meats, It was very hard for me to be open and honest about that, because for so long you've been embedded with this ideology that, this is what you say. And it kind of gets to a point where it almost feels a little bit scripted, because in this point of time, there's no point in us trying to lie about the industry, because all it takes is for one individual to come over here and do exactly what we've just said that we need to do, is generate content. But generate content, you can manipulate it in pretty much any way possible. So for them to come out here and generate content and reflect in the butchery, in the processing of the red meat in different light, you only setting yourself up for accusations and kind of, just not being honest through your platforms. So for me, that's the big reasoning, is that you guys generating content shows an honest perspective of a hunter's view in South Africa and on safari. Show the emotion that your family goes through by hunting specific species, hunting specific animals. Show the devastation it takes when a wounded animal can't be found. And it's a hard pill to swallow, but showing that raw, showing that honest ability kind of relates to a lot of people, saying that, we need to understand that this is just part of the game, and these people actually just, they're doing what is instinct to human beings. It's our primitive instinct inside of us. We were born with it. It's our DNA. Of course, no one likes the killing part because everybody's empathetic towards animals and another species' life. But in the same breath, we need to be open and honest about how these things transpire, how these things happen. And coming over to South Africa, hiring a cameraman, not only do you add a whole different aspect of conservation, especially as far as you hiring somebody that now is implicated into the industry as far as the cameraman's concerned, and even the person. Most cameramen have outsourced editors. So you're generating so much income into the industry as possible, and these guys are going back, they're spending the money back into the industry, they're generating this whole massive circle that is only beneficial to ultimately the species we hunt. So coming out here, making sure that you hire a cameraman, making sure that you take good quality photos and share the honest story behind things is always going to be a positive, is always going to be positively accepted. The next question you've got to ask yourself, is it worth posting on social media? Well, part of the reason why I started PH Journals was to take the attention off my personal life. To take the attention, one of the hate mails that I got, especially a comment, was based around my daughter. I'll never forget, my daughter was just born. I think she was a couple of days old. I posted a video of myself and my wife in the hospital with her. And she, right off the bat, somebody said to me, your daughter's as good as dead to me. If I had the opportunity, I would do to your daughter what you do to animals. And that for me was kind of a harsh pill to swallow. Although I've built myself up in such a very strong mind, based myself off a lot of influences, especially guys like Joe Rogan and stuff who actually just don't give a shit about comments and stuff. But you kind of, when people implicate your family, the people you love and cherish and you'll fight to the death for, it kind of throws this weird curveball. You guys can attack me all you want, but attack my family, and especially something as vulnerable as a newborn baby, it kind of hits you hard. It sort of takes you below the knees, and you start becoming a little bit more wary about those sort of situations. So I started PH Journals, and the whole motto behind PH Journals was to educate, to preserve, and conserve. And that's what we've based it off of. So, have an objective. When you're coming out to South Africa, you have made the decision that you are going to hire a cameraman. You have made the decision to purchase a pretty decent camera. You're going to come out here and really reflect and capture the beauty of South Africa, the beauty of the wildlife, the beauty of a safari. Well, then, have an objective behind that. What is your motive behind that? Is it just to show what a good time your family is having? Is it to show conservation? Is to show how well the safari companies are actually benefiting the wildlife population in South Africa? So have a look at these things. Weigh these sort of things up. If you're posting for personal obligations or personal desires, just understand that you open yourself up for a hell of a lot of criticism without having a strong foot to defend yourself on. And what I mean by that is that make sure that if you are going to defend yourself in these sort of conversations and it does bug you, just be open and honest, because honesty is what our fellow hunters deserve, and so does the wildlife. And there's nothing to be ashamed of being a hunter. You, by far, once again, I believe hunting is definitely our best conservation tool we have to offer, and I strongly believe that. But at the same time, we need to be proud of it. My wife always said to me, you got to own your space. You got to own the scenarios you put yourself into. So own it and run with it. Understand that you are doing your bit in the circle of life to preserve and conserve our magnificent wildlife. So yeah, guys, that's basically everything in a nutshell. And those are the two things I would really consider: is understand that you are doing your part, understand that this is for conservation, and understand that you need to be honest. Building these fake stories, these scripted ideas of how a safari or how South Africa have been running their hunting industry for generations by feeding villages and that sort of stuff. Don't get me wrong. Like I said in the last podcast, there is a small percentage of it that does get donated. However, majority of it does go into processing plants. And this is what we need to be honest about. Africa is a completely different story. Going up north, we'll get into that a little bit later. I'll mention my next guest coming onto the podcast. So, yeah, there's different ways. There's different sections in Africa. There's different ways that conservation, agriculture, and everything have managed and manipulated the ecosystems of the Dark Continent, and we now are obligated as hunters to preserve and conserve. And one of the ways is by generating content, good content, honest content, and make sure that you do it justice. You do us justice, you do your fellow hunter justice, and you do the wildlife justice. So coming over here, taking mediocre photos, just been settling with okay animals, taking out, the unneeded, no, that's not the right way, but the ones that, not taking out the old or not doing your culling part or anything like that. You understand that you are opening yourselves up for a lot of criticism as well as the industry. So in a nutshell, consider these things. Consider coming over here, spending the extra money to generate content through a video, through a cameraman, or even just a photographer. Hiring a safari photographer is, for me, something very, very special. She or he captivates moments in a safari that a video struggles to communicate with. And I've noticed this over some time now, especially when hunters bring their wives and the wives have got the nice fancy cameras. They capture, every now and then you'll get a moment in time that just freezes, and the story that gets told of that picture is massive. And that's what we're after. That's what we're after, is people sharing passion, but as well as sharing a very unique part in the circle of life. Well, guys, that's it in a wrap. That's it in a little bit of a nutshell. Like I said, I just want to say thank you to everybody that has supported me. Of course, this podcast, generating these kind of questions helps me for content to carry on doing podcasts. So if you have got any questions, hit me up on any one of my social media platforms. I am constantly active on all of them, and I take all questions into consideration. And I've been so fortunate with the amount of activity that we have had, obviously getting our podcast to the top 10% in the world, and I can't be more proud of how far we've come. And I just want to say thank you. So yeah, a little bit of a shorter episode this week. And yeah, just to fill you guys in, we have got 2 guests planned for the podcast. So I'm hoping the very next podcast will be with a wonderful lady and the author of Cries of the Savannah, Sue Tidwell. I hope to have her on the podcast pretty soon. Just things have been completely crazy on my side. She's been so understanding and keen to get on the podcast. So hopefully our next episode would have her. And then as well, we dive into some facts about Jagd Terriers, hunting, or Midwest Jag Terriers. We go up north, or we're going down to the Sunshine Coast where we visit Aubrey Tidbury, as we discuss some of the benefits to having one of these wild hunting dogs in your pack or part of your arsenal. So stay tuned. The podcast have got some exciting episodes coming up, and I'm feeling very, very grateful and fortunate. So yeah, like I said, with that, been a very short episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope this gave you guys a little bit of knowledge. From myself, if you are, happy hunting. Until then, stay safe, stay blessed, stay humble. We'll catch up with you guys soon. Cheers.